Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome into the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report with Otis Kirk, Ailey Weiss with you. We have a lot to talk about this week, Otis, because there's been a lot of guys who have decided to now not come to Arkansas after Pittman was fired.
Yeah, they were at 27 commitments and they're at 15 right now. So 12 have opted. Now, some of those, like Javon Gilmore, was a different deal. That was before Pittman was even fired, or before any of the coaches was fired. But there's been quite a few. Latest, Jordan Avenger, the running back from South Carolina, and of course Cameron McGee, a defensive tackle from Alabama, from Georgia. He was just recently. McGee was offered by Alabama recently, and then Avenger was offered by North Carolina. So that's couple of late additions to the decommitment list. But Avenger needs to be careful if he's thinking North Carolina, though, because they may be in the same situation in a few weeks that Arkansas is in right now. I don't know if they're any more stable there, man. I mean, Belichick, man, they looked bad yesterday. I saw a little bit of that game, about all I could stand. No, Keeman Henderson's decommitted, wide receiver from Carthage, Texas. They still have quite a few receivers, though. Javion Martin decommitted before the coaching change. Big tight end from Willis, Texas. Now, that was a loss. That kid's really good. A couple of really good offensive tackles. Ben Mabinga from Georgia decommitted recently, and then Bryce Gilmore decommitted before the coaching change. He's going to Tech. Mabinga chose Arkansas over Georgia Tech and several others, but I don't know if he'll end up at Georgia Tech or not. But Ari Slocum on the defensive line is decommitted. We've already talked about Cameron McGee. J.J. Bush, linebacker from Texas, or from Alabama, I'm sorry, committed to Arkansas. Then when T. Will got fired, he committed to Missouri. Everybody thought he was going to LSU. I thought he was going to LSU to start with, and he ended up coming to Arkansas. Now he went to Missouri, but he visited LSU just before the coaching change. Caleb Gordon from North Carolina, really good linebacker, one of the most underrated players in the nation. He decommitted. And then Adam Austin, safety I like from Lawton, over in MacArthur High School in Lawton, Oklahoma, decommitted. So far, they've been able to keep Colton Yarborough on the commitment list. He's the best player in this class. I thought he was the best player to start with. 6'6", 252-pound defensive end, edge rusher. Reminds me a lot of Landon Jackson. They've been able to keep him. They've been able to keep. One thing I've noticed, they've been able to keep all the in-state kids. Now, there's not that, Quan Prevost, Jordan, from Bentonville, Blair Irvin, the fourth from Bentonville. Of course, Tay Henderson, or Tay Lockett, I'm sorry, from Conway. Then, and of course, we've had Tucker Young on here, the offensive lineman from Lakeside, and then the Kendrick Williams, the safety from Fayetteville, they've been on here too. So both those kids out, and they're still committed. So it looks good in state right now. They can just keep those, maybe add one or two more. There's a chance they could add something when the coaching gets settled down. We got to remember, none of these kids are signed elsewhere. So they might get some of these back, but they might also go get some kids that are committed elsewhere that maybe this staff didn't like that much, that they do like. So that's always just something to keep in mind, that nothing's been signed yet. So it's still up in the air there, But yeah, it's not, but just to be expected. But, one thing I did see Monday, when I got back, I already obligated myself to speak at the Queen Monday and couldn't get out of it. I didn't want to put them in the bind. But when I got back, I was reading the transcript from Hunter and Bobby. And one thing I noticed, Hunter said the days of signing 25, 26, 27 high school kids is probably over with, in recruiting. And I noticed Sam had 27 committed. I think Hunter was probably expecting them to go a little bit more for the transfer portal in the high school ranks, And so I just wondered if they had any words about that, he and Sam, during the process. I don't know if they had or not. It was kind of odd that Hunter said that when they had 27 commitments at one time, and he kind of pulled 27 out there, and I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something to that extent. But anyway, Hunter saying that, and people ask me, well, if it's Bobby, or if it's Rhett Lashley, John Gruden, whoever the next coach is, how are they going to save this class? They're going to save it in the portal. That's how they're going to save it. You keep the kids you've got. If you keep Colton Yarborough, Durant, you keep the in-state kids, you keep some of these other out-of-state kids. There's some good defensive backs committed and some receivers. Like I said, you keep those kids committed, and then you go to the portal and fill the class with portal transfers. you can still salvage this class. I mean, that happens, but I don't see them being able to do it with a lot of new high school kids since the early signing period is in December, and so many kids now sign early. Used to you had to the first Wednesday in February to flip somebody. That's gone. Now there will be some kids wait till the first in February, but most of them, 95%, I say, of the better ones sign early. So we'll see. But but I think how you salvage this class is through the portal. That's how I believe that. I mean, I think if you ask Bobby or any of these other guys when they get the job, I think if somebody asks them, that one thing they're going to say is through the portal. Now they're going, they're going, like I said, if they can keep these high school kids they've got, there's some good players on here. I mean, Prevo and Lockett and Colton and some others. They're Hugh Smith, Ashley Walker. Those are kids that can play. Tucker Young, they can play and help you, but you don't salvage it. They're not going to salvage it with a high school recruiting class. So I know people are freaking out about the kids decommitting, but that happens. I mean, it hurts to lose a Mabinga. It hurts to lose a Bryce Gilmore. It hurts to lose. Well, it hurts to lose any of those kids. Keeman Henderson, I thought was one of the most underrated receivers in the country, but it happens, and it's going to happen. There's probably going to be some more of them jump off the commitment list, but we'll see what happens when that portal opens in January. I think that's where Bobby, if he gets the job, or whoever gets the job. It really, I don't think it matters who gets the job. I think they're going to have to salvage it through the portal. That's my point. Be it Bobby Gruden or Red or Dan Mullen, whoever, they're going to have to salvage it that way.
Well, all the guys on the list that you just named have the ability to recruit these top recruits in the country. It's just a matter of when they get in that position and when they're told, okay, yeah, you can go hit the floor running. But what's next for this team? Because obviously they need to focus on the rest of the season, but then there's a ton of stuff that's going to hit them like a truck as soon as the season's over.
Yeah, it's going to hit them, and what they're going to have to do, they're going to have to first. You get through the season, you see where you're at the end of the season. Are you clean the staff completely out? I mean, or do you keep some of these guys here? Bobby gets the job. I think though they're going to look and kind of sit down with where they're at with the high school kids. There's no quarterback in this class now. There's no tailback, so you're going to have to look at some needs and decide. Is there a high school kid out there that maybe we could get on, or is it more apt to go to the portal? Even though you think if KJ Jackson stays, he's probably going to be the quarterback. But we saw at Ole Miss how they went to the portal and got a guy, and he came in and he's been starting there winning games. So you've got to have two quarterbacks that can play. You can't just have one. And I'm not saying the guy behind KJ can't play, but you've got to know that you've got somebody ready to go in and let the best man win. And if Grayson or the other kid from Florida State, they beat them out, that's fine. But you still got to have. You need four quarterbacks anyway on scholarship, and they'll have three if everybody stays with the program. But I think the biggest thing is just know where you're at, figure out where you're at. I probably figure out where you're at because you'll know then, and just decide, do we? How are we going to hit the portal? Are we going after 5 on offense and 10 on defense or whatever? Because the defensive staff took a hit with 3 leaving, and got some new coaches there, 3 new coaches, and people ask me about Kobe Smith being the offensive coordinator. That's not going to affect anything. Bobby's still going to call the plays. Bobby had an offensive coordinator, Paul Petrino and others when he was here before. Bobby's going to call the plays. That's not going to affect. But what will change is Chris Wilson will coach the linebackers. Jay Fry will coach the offense, defensive line. I'm sorry. Jay Hayes. I'm sorry. Jay Hayes will coach the defensive line. And then on the secondary, you've got, Chi Hendricks, who's signed as the quarterback at Fayetteville, along with Kenny Perry, the holdover. So, he may have a hangover after this, but holdover on defense. I'm sorry, holdover. Sorry, Kenny. But no, I mean, you hired Hayes the other night. That was final. Didn't know if it'd be a linebacker coach or a defensive line coach because Wilson was capable of coaching either. But you got some NFL experience on that side of the ball now. Chi Hendricks was a very good high school coach in Bernie, Texas. Won a lot of games and was up here and kind of just helping here and there and had a couple of titles over there. And now all of a sudden he's thrust in there to coach safety. So we'll see how that works out. But I think he'll do fine. Like I said, his son's a very good prospect in the 27 class. And I know somebody that Bobby really likes and target in that class, But yeah, it's just going to be a mad rush between now and then. And do I expect 15 to stay committed between now and then to high school? No, but I've noticed. I think most of the ones that are probably you thought would go have gone, and now it's going to be up to this staff to kind of say. I do know that they went and saw Tay Lockett play Friday night. He played down there at Conway, had a big game, put on a show for him, I guess. But Coach Bright went down there and saw him play, and they used to open week best they could with all the circumstances, but you had to get some coaches, you had to get some practices in. Tomorrow they will start full fledged for Tennessee. They've already started some, but they'll start working for Tennessee. It's going to be a game where you can bet Tennessee won't overlook them, because Tennessee lost to them last year, 19-14 here, in one of the biggest upsets of the season. So they're going to be aiming for this game, and so there's no chance. I don't think there's any chance that Tennessee overlooks Arkansas this Saturday.
A big game coming up on Saturday. We're going to take a quick break. Otis just broke down a lot of all the coaching changes and the recruits, but we have a lot more to cover on the other side. Stick with us. Welcome back into the Arkansas Football Recruiting Report with Otis Kirk. Ailey Weiss with you here. We just talked about the key for Arkansas football is going to be going into the portal and getting some guys to come here. But who's going to be the guy who is put in that position to get those guys to come here, Otis?
Yeah, my coaching hot board number 2, and I had tiers in that. Tier 1 was guy, and it wasn't ability of them to coach, because I had Chris Silverfield in there, and that with the guys like Petrino and Mullen and Gruden and others. My tier 1 was guys that I felt like had the best chance of getting the job, somewhere, and at the end of the day, these were the guys that I thought the Bobby Petrino, the Rhett Lashleys, the Dan Mullins, the Chris Silverfields, the John Grudens. Those were kind of guys that I felt like at the end of the day, they're going to have the best chance of getting this job. And that was my tier 1. I wasn't saying Silverfield's as good a coach as Bobby or anything like that. It wasn't based on that. And I actually added that story after some people started asking me about it, but because I didn't think about that at first. But I knew what I was doing. But I think I could see where people misunderstood why the tiers. It wasn't a talent level. But, that doesn't mean it'll be one of those guys. You've got guys like, I don't know, Dion's got some medical issues again. People praying for him, because blood clots are a serious thing, man, and that's not good. And but he's on the list. I mean, he has to be on the list to some degree, but he's not in my tier 1. I think I watched, I was kind of out on on Kenny, but man, they lost to Arkansas State yesterday. So I don't think that did him any favors in this coach search. And I know Oklahoma State and some other schools are looking at him as too. And I don't know that he really helped himself yesterday losing to Arkansas State. I think that kind of hurt him, Kenny from Texas State. But Mullen is a guy that's kind of interesting in the fact that you don't know how well the one knock that I've heard on Dan Mullen is recruiting. But then I've heard but I do know just actual X and O coaching. He's one of the best coaches out there. I mean, the guy knows how to coach, and he may be a lazy recruiter. That's what I've heard. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you what I've heard. But they were mad at him at Florida. They said he didn't recruit well. He was a lazy recruiter, But I do know this. He took a program at Mississippi State, and yes, it was different times. I get all that. It's like when Bobby was here before, there wasn't NIL, there wasn't the transfer portal. Look, I get all that. But the bottom line is he was playing by the same rules as everybody else, and he was winning 10 games at Mississippi State. Just like Bobby's win 10, 11 here, So he was doing he was following the rules everybody else followed. He was winning games where other people don't win at those schools. So I don't know, I mean, I don't think you can just discount him. And with the NIL and stuff, how hard do you? I mean, how do you have to be an ace recruiter or just have the money to go get these guys? And I think there's some sarcasm would be involved there. Saying you don't really have to be an ace recruiter if you got enough cash. But no, I think Dan Mullen is definitely somebody that's in the hunt, and I think he would be a good coach. Like I said, he knows X's and O's, and I don't buy into that different era stuff. Like I said with him and Bobby, because they were winning 10, 11 games when nobody else was back in the era, and they were playing the same rules that everybody else were playing by. And so if they can do that then, they can do it now. And if they get to even playing field, I know coaching-wise, few people will out-coach Bobby Petrino or Dan Mullen. Rhett Lashlee, they beat Syracuse yesterday. I know he's a hot name. A lot of people really want him, the big boosters. My understanding is there's a lot of people pushing for him, and he's from Arkansas. In fact, I covered Rhett when he was a recruit. I talked about him like I'm talking about these other guys. But, yeah, Rhett was a quarterback and a good quarterback. good quarterback until he hurt his shoulder, I believe it was, and had to quit football. But he's a smart person, very smart, and very knowledgeable. Will he leave SMU where there's not as much pressure to win the
Right, that's the
ACC
big
as there
question.
is? Yeah, yeah. In the SEC, you've got all kinds of pressure. It doesn't matter. You can go to Alabama. They're finding out down there. People lost to Vanderbilt yesterday. They've been calling for his head. So it's not just Arkansas. There's just a lot of pressure in the SEC. I read some people last week. It's dumb, but when Kirby Smart got beat by Alabama, there were Georgia people wanting him fired. Now, obviously, that's not going to happen. But I'm just saying, there's pressure in the SEC that you don't have that. I mean, in the SEC that you don't have in the ACC. There's pressure in the ACC, but nowhere near the degree of the SEC. I'm going to tell you what, it's a lot like the NFL. I mean, it's just a hot button. If you win, you're the greatest thing. Lose the next week, they want you gone. And if you won national championship like Kirby Smart, they still want you. So I mean, he's got a good NIL situation at SMU. He's got a program rolling pretty good. They won 11 the last 2 years. Went to playoffs last year. Whether they should have or not can be debated, but it doesn't matter. They got there. That's all that matters. They were one of the teams chosen. So I just don't know how much rep if he would take this job. But if he does, I mean, if he would, he's certainly going to be someone they're going to. A lot of people are going to be wanting him, and I will say that. I know that to be a fact. Bobby's got 7 games to kind of prove himself here again. I don't know if he has to prove anything to anybody with his record when he was here before and just the record he's had since he's been in coaching. But he's got 7 games. But people say, well, if he wins 3 games, I don't think he should get that job. If Bobby wins 3 of these 7 games, he probably should be president of the United States. I mean, that schedule they've got, he's going to be the heavy underdog in all 7 games. They're going to be a heavy underdog in all 7 games. And
How
if he
many
can win
games do
3
you
or
think
4 of those,
they're taking the rest of the season?
yeah, they can win 3 or 4. Well, if he won 4, he'd get to a bowl game. And well, 4 and 3 or 3 and 4 is asking a lot with the new coaches. A lot of them haven't even worked with these guys, and I don't know. It's just asking a lot. I don't know it'll happen. It'll be interesting to see with the intensity that they play with Saturday. That's going to be my biggest thing. So not if they beat Tennessee or not, but are they going to be tackling better? Is the intensity on defense going to be a lot better? Is the offense going to score after halftime? Are they going to Are they going to fumble, throw interception, or something to cost them the game down there? All that is something. I'm so curious about this game Saturday because there's going to be so many storylines within the game itself. Not necessarily win or loss, but just the how do they play with the intensity? As I said, do they have the intensity? They tackle better because they got to tackle better. That's the worst tackling team I've seen in a long time. And I kind of made some people mad this Monday evening when I got back and finally read the transcript. I hadn't had a chance to read it or hear it. And they said the defensive players were mad that the coaches had gotten fired. And I said, well, if they're mad, they need to look in the mirror. A lot of them do, because I mean, their effort was not there. And I mean, they can deny that, and maybe I'm a fool for saying that, but I really believe that's what I believe. I believe
that was what Yurchek said in the press conference as well. He just said that these guys were not playing for Pittman anymore, and that was kind of the ultimate decision.
Exactly. And like I said, if they're mad, they need to look in the mirror. Now, I'm not saying they can't be upset that T. Will and the guys at Deke and never recruit them got fired, Sam. I understand that. I understand when you go somewhere because a lot of times because of a coach and then he gets fired, you're going to be mad. But I mean, but they've got to put some responsibility back on themselves and look in the mirror. Now, I'm not saying that's all of it, but it is some of it, and I really believe that. And I don't mean to hurt anybody's feelings or make anybody mad, but I mean, I just can't let that slide without putting that in there. Some of them need to look in the mirror. Now, I think guys like Julian Neal, Quincy Rhodes Jr., Philip Lee, and some others. I probably shouldn't name anybody because I'm going to leave some out. But I thought those 3 guys busted at every play. But there's some on defense that just haven't done that. And it's more than the Notre Dame game. I mean, the effort at the end of that Memphis game where backup quarterback comes in, they go for I think it was 3rd and 8, and he carries the defensive tackle like 9 or 10 yards, gets first down. I mean, that should not happen. That can't happen. And you knew they were going to run that play, and you know it's coming, and you force a punt there, you got a chance to actually kick a field goal and beat them, maybe. So it goes back more than the Notre Dame game. And it's also, like I said, it's not all just giving the offense a pass either. I mean, they scored 10 points in the second half the last 3 weeks combined, and you can't do that either. You scored 28 in the first half, which they didn't against Notre Dame. I get that. But the other 2 games, they scored 28 in the first half. that's not going to win a game for you. You can't quit. You've got to come on and try to hang more in the second half. You just got to do that. And you can't quit scoring because there's never going to be enough in the SEC. And Tennessee's going to put some points up on this team, and they're going to have to score with them to stay in the game. And because Tennessee and the rest of these teams on this schedule is going to put some points on Arkansas.
All right, to wrap up the show, give me your score prediction for this weekend.
Wow. Well, I'm drinking red Gatorade, not red Kool-Aid this week, so I will go with Tennessee.
Okay.
Tennessee 35, Arkansas 28. I think Arkansas is going to play pretty hard, and I may be a fool. You have me on here next Sunday. You can kid me if you want. I may look like a fool, and I'm not saying I don't think Arkansas will beat them, but I do think Arkansas will play harder. I think the alarm's going off with some of them that, hey, they may be mad, but I think deep down some of them know they didn't probably give a max effort in those games, and I think you'll see it this Saturday. So I think Tennessee wins probably by 1 or 2 touchdowns, something like that.
All right, well, we'll have to check back in on that score prediction next weekend. Otis, thank you so much for joining us. That's all we got for today.
Thank you. Welcome to the team. Thank you. Appreciate you.
Thanks.